this venture of mine. To my family, I love you. This is for you. This is for us, for my community. And to my friends, thank you for support and shoulders to crying. And I hope that you all really truly feel the love that I've put into this dissertation, into this research, and into this project. I want to start by doing a brief acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the land we are gathered on has long served as the site of meeting and exchange amongst a number of indigenous peoples, specifically the Kiawe and Saura. We honor and respect the diverse indigenous people connected to this territory on which we gather. I also want to acknowledge the unnamed bodies of the African Americans that helped cultivate this land and country during the times of slavery, Reconstruction, and beyond. I honor you and thank you for your sacrifice. With that, we go into a great cloud of witnesses. When initially deciding to focus my research on Black composers, it was imperative to bring new viewpoints to the conversation. No longer wanting to simply introduce the music of Black composers to the canon as a major initiative, but focusing on the narrative that was being displayed about the Black community. That became paramount for me. I focused on the thematic information that was being shared, not wanting to perpetuate the stereotype of the Black community via stories of traumatic genesis. I concluded on creating a work for voice and piano that is primarily centered on stories of Black joy, the strength of the matriarch, and the connective bond of the Black family unit. This was to offer another option, a new perspective of art song, set to poetry specifically focused on representative members of my family. Wrapped in nostalgia, A Great Cloud of Witnesses was a project birthed out of love for my family and reverence for my culture, and the many contributions given by Blacks to music. The Black family unit has been challenged by societal norms for centuries. Despite the pressures to conform to the traditional visual of the American nuclear family, Black Americans have kept with the African tradition passed down to them on the importance of extended family, nuclear family, and community. Marvin V. Curtis discusses Black cultural heritage prior to American slavery, beginning with tribal living and customs in Africa. He reads, "The myth that Africans attained their highest level of culture when they were brought to America and civilized by the white man negates the cultural heritage. The cultural tradition of the slaves was based on African tribes as the basis family unit. People were connected through family, customs, and dependency on each other. The society was based on cooperation and survival of the family, not on competition or survival of the fittest." Many times, having multiple generations under one roof, the Black family experience has created a culture of respect and love that is unspoken but understood by the community. There is also an idea of a chosen family, or play cousins, aunties, uncles, mothers, and siblings. Historically, in America, Black families were not given the privilege of being able to stay together and be surrounded by blood relatives. The horrors of the transatlantic slave trade ensured that Black bodies were seen as a commodity and not a soul or person, but as chattel, tearing apart family for capitalistic gain. To guarantee survival, evolution was required, and Black Americans needed to build a community and family that was not always connected via strains of DNA, but connected via soul and out of necessity. In Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons by Marine Animals, Alexis Pauline Gumbs speaks on other mothering, or a concept marine biologists call allomaternal behavior, in which different species mother other species out of necessity for survival. She writes, "Who here has not been mothered by someone genetically and socially distant from your birth situation at some necessary time? How would you measure what you gain from that potentially costly behavior? We call it love. This ideology has been passed down and is still very much a part of the fibers of the Black community and family unit. And because of the importance of my own family unit and the massive impact they have played on my life physically, spiritually, and musically, exploration into the Black family unit and how it is represented musically in Western art music became an integral part of my research and a propellant for writing A Great Cloud of Witnesses. Historically, the portrayal of the Black family in society, media, and art has come with an onslaught of traumatic material. Even in situations of comedic relief, television sitcoms have still been surrounded with either a locality of poverty and struggle, or continuing the trope of the Black absentee father, gang violence, and being surrounded in systemic racism. In film, for decades, it was the expectation that Black actors were to be cast in roles of servitude, placating to the whims and desires of their employers or masters. From Gone with the Wind, The Imitation of Life, and Casablanca, to Django Unchained, Roots, Them, and many more, Hollywood and the film industry have made millions of dollars capitalizing on the portrayal of Black trauma. Hollywood Black trauma profit fatigue, a term coined by Jamarlin Martin, is a highly discussed topic among the film community and Black viewers. In her op-ed, Shakina Johnson speaks on the concept of Hollywood profiting from traumatic stories of Black lives. She writes, "Yet, the proliferation of Black narratives feels excessive. Black people don't need 50 police brutality films a year to remind us of the injustices we faced and continue to face. We've been known. Imagine forcing Harriet Tubman or Solomon Northup to rewatch what they've lived through several times a year, supposedly for entertainment. Worse still, it feels exploitative. I've begun to wonder how much directors genuinely want to investigate Black trauma and how much they wish to profit from it, knowing it is a tried and tested path to critical acclaim." Along the same lines, within the field of music, more specifically opera, the portrayal of Black stories has been centered around a traumatic genesis. The origin stories oftentimes have to deal with the same used tropes in film and media. While the music is interesting, beautiful, and for many, quite enjoyable to perform, the stories are dark, depressing, and while dealing with the resilient spirit of the characters, can often take the audience to a place of despair. The newer wave of Black story-based opera is not fantastical. It is not fictional, but based upon true stories that are very traumatic and unfortunately, very true. From Blue by Tesori, Fire Shut Up in My Bones and Champion by Blanchard, Emmett Till, an opera in 3 acts by Charles Lloyd, and The Central Part 5 by Davis. The use of these very real stories reminds the audiences of these national tragedies. However, for Black audience members, they resurface very real emotions that are not fictional stories set to beautiful music, but real-life tragedies and realities that are being portrayed time and time again on the stage for the world to see. Naomi Andre wrote in her book, Blackness in Opera, about Porgy and Bess. She stated, "Rather than believing in a hero whose love can save the leading lady, at the end of the opera, Porgy is seen as being no better off than he was at the beginning. Tragically, he remains deficient in every way. As the Black characters divert us with song, dance, and negative stereotypes, we are shuffled away from opera and pushed closer into minstrelsy." So here you have this vibrant community and once again resilient, shrouded in poverty, racial injustice, unfair treatment of characters by the police due to the color of their skin, drugs, sexual violence against women, and the portrayal of Black masculinity that is either gangster, criminal, or inferior. When attempting to reason the abundance of the use of these topics and materials, the phrase "trauma sells" is always brought to mind. In the Metropolitan Opera's revival of Porgy and Bess in 2019, it was reported that by the New York Times that the ticket sales were 113% of its anticipated box office revenue. This led to the Metropolitan Opera deciding to program 3 more performances in an unprecedented financial move. Addressing the needed change of topic material for the lived Black experience in America, there are composers that are bringing new and inspiring stories to the operatic and recital stage. These composers are attempting to bring light and truth into the portrayal of Black lives in vocal music. Inspired by composers such as Jasmine Ariel Barnes, Damian Sneed, and Jarrell Gray, I wanted to not only be a witness to this neo-cultural wave of Black art, but a part of it. As mentioned previously, thematic material of a non-traumatic genesis has been imperative to my research and composition. Working with living composer Jarrett Roseborough, and using the stories of my own family, I was able to create a set of 6 poems that encompassed another vantage point of my Black lived experience. The compositional process of A Great Cloud of Witnesses focused on the Black family unit as a whole and individually, incorporating music of Black culture and infusing it into the style of art song found in the 21st century, Western art music. It sheds light onto the contributions made by Blacks in popular and classical music genres. It also focuses on the relationships found within Black families and creating a non-traumatic narrative of the Black family unit and community. I believe in writing organically and allowing the flow of poetry to speak for itself. Initially wanting to write in a song format, I found myself attempting to write a song instead of a poem. That left me with a sense of inadequacy and restraint. I quickly came to the conclusion of writing the poetry in free verse and creating space for the words to speak for themselves, to share the story and sentiments that I felt so intrinsically, trusting that the words could do justice to the memory or legacy of who the individuals were. As you can see on the slide, these are the individuals that were chosen specifically for this song cycle, beginning with my grandmother, Willie Mae Wright, going to my father, Willie Wright Jr., following him is my mother, Dr. Lenora Barnes Wright, and then after her is my daughter, Lenora Harris, followed by my husband, Governor Harris, and ending in a culminating family song. Mother of Song, my grandmother's poem, I decided to focus on her rich history, touching on where she grew up, the stories she would tell us of her childhood and tin top, and not of trauma, but of her mischievousness and her love of sitting and speaking with the elders and learning from them. Growing up in Montgomery, Alabama during Jim Crow era, there was plenty of traumatic material I could have chosen. However, I instead chose to portray her tenacity, her community, and her love for family and God. The title Mother of Song not only speaks to the mothering of our family and the creation of the Wright family singers from her 8 children, Sandra, Willie, Renee, Deborah, Bridget, Toya, Molly, and Eric, but also her other mothering of so many more. It is because of her and her dream and legacy that many of us are deeply invested in music, making her our genesis of song. The ending phrase of this poem, "All this in heaven too," is referencing what my grandmother would say at the end of conversations and prayers, speaking on her blessings and also blessing her family. I use this phrasing as an idea of her speaking of the family throughout the remainder of the poems. Navy Nights is my father's poem. I knew I wanted to focus on reversing the stereotype of the deadbeat dad. That was immensely important to me. Despite the narrative that Black fathers are not involved in the lives of their children, the CDC reported that Black fathers were in fact more likely to be a part of their children's lives, helping with daily duties in the house, eating meals with them, and taking them to activities than the fathers of Hispanic or white heritage. Wanting to highlight the positive narrative of a loving and involved Black father, I went into writing my father's poem from a perspective of being a daddy's girl. Navy Nights comes after Mother of Song, as he is the direct descendant of my grandmother. Therefore, chronologically and historically, it makes sense. The immense pressure placed on Black men to be better, yet not better than their patriarchal counterparts, constantly having to placate to the system, but instill pride and worth within their offspring, all while teaching them how to navigate a world against their kind, is a plight, unfortunately, most Black fathers must bear. I wanted to make sure that this poem depicted the confidence that was built within me because of the presence and love of my father, as well as the safety he created in his arms and in our home, even though he was exposed and unsafe in this world. Thank you, Navy Nights. My California Breeze was written for my mother, Dr. Lenore Barnes Wright. From a young age, I was aware of the strength and beauty my mother possessed. She was a brilliant academic that fought for justice and equality. She was fighting for DEI within the gilded halls of academia before it was officially titled as such. And as the former director of judicial affairs at The Ohio State University, she raised me with the belief of reaching for the highest heights, achieving academic excellence, and never apologizing for wanting or being more. There were times when I did not understand the social constraints and struggles of being both woman and Black in this world. She enlightened me on the trope of the angry Black woman and how it is used against us when we are being direct and unmoved. She explained having to be unafraid of who you are, accepting of self and others. She moved in grace and love, always, and was the epitome of motherly love. Sharing the same mothering with my family as another example of other mothering. Not in perfection, but in the beauty of the eternal learning and growth is where my mother thrived. Because of her, I am the academic and mother I am today. All these traits of her personality flowed seamlessly from ink to paper. A true Cali girl, being born and raised in San Diego, California, she had a connection to the ocean that was passed down to me. A beautiful oceanic soul that breathed in salt water and breathed out virtue, words of affirmation, and love. The poetry was written with all of this in mind, wanting to illuminate her Blackness, beauty, and strength. Hey girl. Named after my mother, the following poem is written for my daughter, Wright-Harris. Hey Girl is written in a style of quick, sporadic statements that are about the vibrancy and hope of childhood. Lover of music, mainly hip hop and pop, dancing, and a solid joke to get everyone laughing. This poem encompasses not only the personality of my daughter, but my hopes and aspirations for her. I intentionally wanted Hey Girl to come after my mother's poem, one, because of the name connection, and two, the progression of the maternal legacy, 2 generations connected by my voice. Unable to have been given the opportunity to meet, these 2 Lenores are highly reminiscent of each other physically and spiritually. I am the connective tissue between this past legacy and this future legacy. So often, the troubled and competitive relationships of Black mothers and daughters are highlighted in film, art, and literature. I wrote this poem as the antithesis of what is spoken of young Black girls, often overly sensualized and seen and treated as much older than they are. Young Black girls must constantly be reminded and constantly remind others that they are in fact children. In a report found in the Center on Poverty and Inequality at Georgetown Law, it was found that Black girls aged 5 to 14 were perceived that they were less innocent and more adult-like, needing less nurturing, protection, and comfort, and were more independent, with the idea of adultification of young Black girls stemming back to slavery. In contradiction to this, Hey Girl aims to push the narrative that while she is beautifully independent and a vivacious being, she is indeed a child, and her childlike wisdom and optimism many times has been my saving grace in a world that sees her contrarily. The penultimate poem of this set is Adore, and it was written for my husband, Governor Harris. Because of the trope that Black marriages are filled with toxic, argumentative wives and lazy or overly worked husbands, leading to constant loud bickering and distant relationships, I chose to highlight the beauty of Black love in marriage, lifting up the many attributes Governor has that not only have been instrumental in the success of our family, but of me personally. There is much that I have done in my personal and academic career because of his support. I wanted to have the theme of this poem be my perspective of him as a partner and companion, not necessarily as a father. Adore in this context is used as a noun. He is adore. The only song written in a more song style, verse, refrain, verse, the flow of this poem consistently brings back to the remembrance of the reader that he is my adore. The charge at the end is to empower the strong Black man of my affection to be unapologetic in this world that wants him to shrink himself in subjugation. It is a call to every Black man to allow your beauty, power, and brilliance to be seen. Do not blend in, stand out. Oh, my adore, a statement of love and respect, of passion and knowledge. Your sacrifice does not go unnoticed, and you are worthy of time. The final poem, 3150, is the numeric address to our family home found in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. This poem is centered on the family as a whole. My grandparents, Willie Mae and Willie James Wright, moved to Cleveland Heights when there were not many Black families in the area. This poem speaks on the physical attributes of the home, green staircases, colorfully painted walls, but also on the metaphorical sentiments of what home is, feeling welcome, and a place you can come back to and be understood without having to explain yourself. When writing this poem, I kept in mind that 4 generations of our family have been within these walls. I was able to speak on the generations within the home, the piano that has been in the dining room since the very beginning, and the many different bedrooms that house so many, and ending with the feeling of home being Canaan's side, a nod to the biblical reference of the forever home of the children of Israel, and the terminology used in spiritual, when Canaan's land meant north or Canada. The end of this poem is also the totality of the entire work, and bringing to a close a story of love and family, beginning and futures to be, spirituality and home. Jarrett Roseborough, an accomplished musician and composer, was the perfect person to set these words to music. His deep connection to both the different musical genres and to myself personally made him uniquely suited for this project. Jarrett and I have known each other for over 20 years. He is not only a close friend, but also family, having shared holidays, celebrations, and personal milestones. This close-knit relationship infused our collaboration with a sense of trust, understanding, and authenticity. Jarrett's musical expertise, combined with his personal knowledge of the community I was representing in my poetry, allowed him to fully understand the emotional landscape I sought to capture. Our friendship made it possible for us to collaborate despite the distance, as he lives in Pennsylvania, and we mostly communicated remotely. Genre blending. Each poem I wrote was not just a collection of words, but a reflection of the people, histories, and experiences that shaped them. I would send both a written and recorded version of each poem to Jarrett. The recording was crucial because the tone, inflection, and pacing of my voice helped him understand the essence of the poem. I also identified a musical genre that I felt represented each poem. These genres were not randomly chosen. They were linked to the personality, history, and spirit of the subjects within the poems. As you can see, for example, Mother of Song, my grandmother's song, is connected to spirituals. But we also have jazz, nature sounds, hip hop, R&B, and gospel represented. A key concept in our collaboration was the creation of a musical motif, which served as a connective thread between each song in the cycle. This motif was inspired by a piece of music that has personal significance to my family, a gospel choral arrangement of Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, which we call Bread of Heaven. We sing this hymn at family homegoing services as a final tribute to our departed loved ones. Jarrett used this motif throughout the cycle, weaving it into each song in different keys, tonalities, and variations, but also keeping the rhythm and the integrity of the original piece intact. I'm gonna have Jarrett come up now so you can hear a theme beginning with my grandmother's song. Jarrett Roseborough. Thank you. The process of composing and performing this cycle was deeply collaborative. Throughout the creation of this piece, we sent sound files back and forth, with Jarrett providing the compositions and me offering feedback. The exchange helped ensure that the music resonated with the emotional core of the poems and the performance tradition of Black music. I learned much of the music by ear, a method that has deep roots in Black musical traditions. By internalizing the music this way, I was able to connect more deeply with each character and nuance of the poems. While learning music by ear isn't the only method for learning, it did allow me to fully inhabit the music and understand how Jarrett's compositions express the poetry. The musical experience in this cycle is deeply rooted in the Black cultural and spiritual traditions. One of the key elements Jarrett incorporated was call and response, a hallmark of Black musical expression, especially in the context of Black church. This tradition has its origins in African culture and continues to shape worship and musical experiences today. In 3150, we hear a clear example of this tradition, with the singer and the audience engaging in a dialogue, and the performer invites the audience to join in singing the Bread of Heaven motif. The audience is encouraged to respond, creating a sense of communal participation that is so central to Black church music. This flexibility and openness to improvisation reflects the deeply personal and communal nature of the music. So we're gonna practice. I'm going to sing the theme and I want you to repeat after me, because at the end of the cycle, you will be singing and joining in. Okay. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Your turn. Beautiful. Great job. So remember that for later on. Thank you, Jarrett. This project goes beyond simply sharing music or art. It is rooted in the history and culture of Black people in America. Malcolm X once said, "Armed with the knowledge of our past, we can with confidence charter a course for our future. Culture is an indispensable weapon in the freedom struggle." Unfortunately, there's an increasing trend in this country to erase or alter the historical narrative of Black people. The removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion measures, and the changing of curriculum and language in educational settings makes it even more critical for us to continuously teach and preserve our history and culture within our families and communities. We must tell our stories and not have our stories be told for us. In her article on the Black Arts Movement, Lisa Gale Collins emphasizes that artists and activists are often one and the same. They are the shapers of future realities. The Black Arts Movement, as outlined by Amiri Baraka, is embraced in the idea of art that directly spoke to the needs and aspirations of Black America. As artists, we are charged with the responsibility to honor our community, empower it, and create work that validates and uplifts. Creating this work for me is an act of personal healing, honoring my community, and paying tribute to those who came before me. This project is my way of honoring those who've paved the way, even though they are no longer here to witness the full impact of their love and guidance. As June Boyce Tillman notes, music can bring alive memories that reroot uprooted people, thus helping to reinforce the notion of identity. The Black community, having been uprooted from Africa and then subjected to societal dislocation in America, finds strength in music. It is through music that we rediscover a sense of belonging, a homeland, and a shared identity. Alice Walker beautifully describes the power of music as a tool for healing, particularly in the context of Black identity. In her autobiography, she recalls how the music of Noel Pointer helped her connect to the enduring love that Black people have shared through centuries of hardship. In the beginning, the music brought grief and longing, but over time it became a source of healing, a reminder of the love that still binds us together. In performing this work, I'm not just sharing a piece of music. I am engaging in self-care and healing. Singing becomes an act of empowerment. It allows me to take ownership of my story and of my community's story. I'm writing a narrative that is not defined by trauma, but by the beauty, joy, and love that has always been a part of growing up Black in America. To the community, to my community, to the world, I charge you to own your voice. You are worthy of time, and you are worthy of a creative existence that is no longer shrouded in a traumatic genesis, but one that is representative of all you are, all we are, completely and in totality. Thank you. colored pattern walls. Hold the whispered secrets of decades past. These green carpet texts creep from the weight of generations of feet. The air heavy with history, cradles memories, laden with laughter and tears, joys and fears, life and death, beginnings and things put to has any, I'm more than willing to speak if I can. Yes.
Who had the best screens?
I have the best screens, actually. I make the best screens now. That's true. Laura said it's true. I'm sorry, can we have the house lights up so I can see them, please? Thank you. Just so I can see who's raising their hand. Oh, yeah, Uncle Jay.
What was the deciding factor of not going with the disparity aspect of the Black community and your grandmother versus taking the positive side?
Yeah, I find it so important that we end this like perpetual cycle of trauma, and that the only stories that you hear about Black families in America is like a traumatic genesis, and we're so much more. We're so much more than trauma. We're so much more than police brutality. We're so much more than slavery. Like, yes, we are resilient people, but I wanted to show that the family unit is intact. It exists. It's not these shard groups of family and bitter parents and everything. It's intact. We do have an entire family and community that not only loves each other, but we love others as well, and we're open to others. So I wanted to make sure that that was perpetuated in the music and poetry.
I have a question. When
Yes.
you started your journey, your doctoral journey, at what point did you decide this on your dissertation?
I knew this was going to be my dissertation when I started. I knew that I wanted to focus on Black composers. I knew I wanted to focus on living Black composers. And I knew I wanted to look outside of slavery and spirituals. And my family's like a seed of fertile ground. And I just was like, I grew up in this. This is what I've known, what I've been raised in. And it's not just the Black community. I'm sure there's other communities that have these same experiences. And that's what's so beautiful about this music is I'm connecting it to music of Black genres, right? But it's American music. Black music is American music. And the more that we talk about that, the more that we are able to introduce that into the canon, it takes more than the Black community to do that. We need you all to do that. We need you all to give the art songs and the operas and everything like that. We need you all to share the music so that it can be a part of the canon. So it grew becoming more. Sophia, yeah.
What inspired the title choice of A Great Cloud of Witnesses?
Oh, so that's Hebrews 12, 1, I believe. And it says like, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us not tire in this race. And my grandmother used to say that to me. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. And so that was a special meaning. And my family, a lot of empaths are witnesses to this, right? My mom is no longer alive, but because of her, I am here. Like my grandmother is no longer alive. She passed literally the first week I started my doctoral journey. But because of her, we are all here. Like, so that's where that idea came from. It was really important to have those like time factors. Any other questions? Yes, Uncle Jay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of the first Black opera singers was Mary Anderson, if I'm not mistaken. How do you compare yourself to her, but also coming from a Black family? Blacks usually don't know much about the opera scene lifestyle.
Right.
We're usually more tradition than R&B, hip hop, things of that nature. So how do you compare yourself to Mary Anderson and let's just say Kendrick Lamar? What's some of the advice?
I'm right in the middle. They're both activists, which is dope, right? So I love that, and they were both pushing boundaries. I thank Mary Anderson for all she did, right? And the doors that she swung wide open for us. It is now like passed down to this generation, right? It is now our turn to do more, to push the envelope, right? Right now, we're being silenced. We're being silenced, and not to get political, but like they're trying to silence us. They're trying to silence our stories. And Kendrick Lamar is an activist, right? A current activist who has a worldwide stage. I'm not there yet, but I want to push the envelope. I want to push back against the narrative that we can only do one thing, that we can only be a part of these traditions of music, right? Opera traditionally has been an elitist type of feel around it, and it's not. The stories of our normal people doing crazy things and falling in love quickly, swiping on Tinder, but really they were just walking in the courtyard or whatever the case is, and falling in love, and those are the stories that are being displayed on stage, right? So we need to be welcome to that. We need to be allowed to be a part of that as well. The more that we are on stage, the more our stories are shown to the world on stages such as this and larger. I feel like the more that we will be able to diversify the audience and also make sure that the art form is long lasting. Yes.
Regarding our culture, since your educational journey has begun, are you seeing more of an interest in the area of opera? Because it is still, because even when you started school and classical music and what have you, I always wonder how impactful that would be. And how would we introduce our children, in reference to, operatic pieces and educating them in reference to classical music?
Yeah, I do think that there is a trend that is happening that is moving a bit away from classical music, right? And more genre blending. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I might be on my own here, but if we are thinking about making opera accessible to the masses, not everybody's going to sit through a 5-hour Wagnerian opera. I'm not sitting through a 5-hour unless I'm singing it, it's not attainable all the time. And what we are attempting to do is make it attainable. Sometimes you have to nuggetize it, and here's a small bit, introduce it, and then introduce it a little bit more. My daughter has been around opera all her life, from the womb, right? My husband's an opera singer, I'm an opera singer, so yeah, she's been around it all the time. That doesn't mean she loves it, Actually, it's kind of like the opposite. And she is in love with other forms of music, but if I could figure out ways to incorporate my love of classical music and her love of hip hop and blend that to make it attainable, then who knows what she might get into later on. We just have to make it accessible to everyone. Not saying that we forget Mozart and Beethoven and Handel and all of them. We're not forgetting them. However, they are dead and gone, right? And there are people now creating beautiful music that are not getting the time of day because we're so stuck in the past. We recognize the past, we thank them for everything they've done, and we build on it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build. Yes? It's okay.
How are you bridging that gap? Are you doing that with your private students? Are you making custom arrangements, working on songs that they choose?
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of that, so I'm just curious to see what other private students are doing.
Absolutely. So with my students, a lot of times I will say, what do you want to work on? What are some of the things, your goals, right? Not in music, not in actual sung music, but in your voice. What are you wanting to work on? What are your attainable goals that we can work on now, and then our long-term goals, right? Once we do that, we can figure out music that fits that. Doing research. Yes, I know we're educated and brilliant people who know so much, but there's still so much out there. As teachers, we can still learn. We can still do research, right? And so it's with that research that I'm finding these other pieces. Or I'm asking them, who do you like? What composers do you like? Who are you listening to now, current, not classical? What do you like about them? What do you like about that music? And then I try to find something that is similar in the vein. If they like the fast patter of rap, okay, have you ever tried doing, a pattern art? Let's work on that. Things, there's small things to just kind of get their attention. Of course, you have to notice like the level that they're at, right? But there are art songs at every level that work on all different technical things, and we can always just like try to find different things like that. So that's usually how I go about that. I think I'm almost like at time, but I'll check in.
This will be my last question.
I'll see you at home too.
We will hear his question.
Right. Okay.
In anything you get down in life, and you've made it clear, you pull inspiration from the God, Lord Almighty, Mr. Navy Blue here, the rest of the family. But outside of that, is there anything else or something else where you pull inspiration? Because sometimes living the life that you're living or the lifestyle, people don't necessarily understand it, appreciate it, value it, particularly in our community. What keeps you going? What keeps you motivated when you come from a hip hop era? You come from a black community that don't necessarily take part in this. You come from a gospel singing album family.
Yeah.
How do you keep going?
This is my passion, and this is what I love to do, and I can't base that on what anyone else thinks of me. And that was instilled in me from a very young age, right? I used to get bogged down when people wouldn't like what I liked, right? Or when I didn't fit the mold of what like a black girl was in the 90s, right? And my mom always would tell me like, girl, please, like, don't let that bother you, do what you want to do, right? And I teach that to my daughter. Do what you want to do. Others will come to love it or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that it's valid. It doesn't change the fact that it's valid. If others don't see the importance in it, make them. Make them value you. Let them know how valuable you are, how valuable your mind is, how valuable your art is, right? And then, let the rest fall by the wayside. You can't bring them all. You can't bring them all. Last question, yes.
Now that you are an accomplished soprano, a living composer, a singing doctor, where do you see yourself next, and what are you looking towards?
I'm looking towards a job. I would love to teach, have a full professorship somewhere. I would love to do that. My dream is to be in an institution that does not have representation. And I know that's hard on me, but it's important for us to infiltrate like these gilded halls, right? And I want to be able to bring my knowledge and my research and impart it to others and inspire others. So that, I would love to do something with the song cycle. I plan on recording it with Jarrett, possibly taking it around to different universities, who knows? But this is important to me, and I think it's really important to the world for them to hear it and to feel it, and to also feel a part of my family. So, thank you, everyone.